People do become a new version of themselves after toxic relationships, but it's an angry version of themselves. It's a bitter version of themselves. And when we are functioning in life from a negative place, we attract more negative. And that's how many people still end up right back in another toxic. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Naila Abdullah. I'm a mental health therapist turned toxic relationship coach. And after overcoming my own personal experiences with both toxic family and toxic romantic relationships, I'm now on a mission to help women like you heal from toxic relationships, to move on, to rebuild your life, and most importantly, to break the cycle of toxic relationships for good. So if that sounds like what you need, stick around and let's get into this question that you have. How do I know if someone is being manipulative? So you know by now that I like to go back to the root of the word, the definition of the word. So the first point that I want to point out when we talk about how, or when we answer the question, how do I know when someone is being manipulative, we need to look at what is the definition of manipulative in the first place. So manipulate in its simplest form, the definition is to control or influence a person in a dishonest or deceitful way. I'll repeat it again. To control or to influence a person in a dishonest or deceitful way. So that basically means trying to get you to do something, trying to control you or influence you, trying to get you to do something or to think a certain way where it is not in your best interest. That's the other additional part that I would want to add to that for you as you're trying to understand how to identify a manipulative person. Oftentimes they are trying to get you to do something against your will, to think about something against your will, to agree to something against your will. And oftentimes, 99.9% of the time, it's in their best interest, not in your best interest. Now, just to help you put a little bit of context to that definition, I'll give you some examples about what that could possibly look like. Now, of course, we can spend days here on YouTube talking about different ways, but I do want to give you a couple of examples that can maybe help you to identify ways where someone is trying to control you or trying to influence you in a deceitful and dishonest way, to try to get you to do something, accept something against your will, or at least where it is not in your best interest and solely in their best interest. So the first example I want to give you is a financial example. In toxic relationships, manipulative relationships, oftentimes, or narcissistic relationships where they all actually fall under the same umbrella, you often see or sometimes see not only emotional abuse or psychological abuse, but sometimes financial abuse is also paired with that. So what that can look like is where when you first get into the relationship, and this is something I experienced personally as well, when you first get into the relationship, the person is very generous financially, they seem very responsible. It's almost like they are putting on a good facade. But the other word that I want to use with that, not only are they putting on a good facade, but they're investing in you. They're investing in you to get you to trust them. And what you will see over time in the relationship is this person that went from being financially supportive, financially responsible, now they are financially exploiting you. So financially exploiting you can mean that they're being irresponsible with paying the bills, they're asking to borrow money and not paying you back, and they're also making you feel guilty for when you try to set boundaries to say, no, I can't do that right now, or no, that's not going to help us financially. Another example that I want to give to you about what manipulation can look like as you're asking yourself, how do I know when someone is being manipulative, is that they don't take responsibility for their actions. And not only do they not own up to it, but they then find a way to blame it on you. Again, they try to influence you to believe that you are the problem. A common example of them blaming their actions on you for something that you've done is infidelity, right? So if the person goes out and cheat on you in the relationship, however, they blame that, the fact that they've done that, on you not being available for them, or you not, giving them the attention that they want. Another example of that is disrespectful language, right? Yelling, profanity, and you've been clear that that is not how you want to communicate, even if you're in an argument. However, they don't take responsibility for being that way with you, for being disrespectful in that way with you. Instead, they blame that on the fact that, oh, you've upset me, or you've done X, Y, and Z, and that's why I'm acting this way. Now, the reality of it, as human beings, as adults, we have options, right? So no matter how upset you get or no matter, if someone's not available for you, we all are responsible for our own actions. Yes, certain things can trigger us, but we are still ultimately responsible for our actions. And when you are in a relationship with a healthy person, they should be able to own that, okay, yes, I should not have responded in that way. Yes, we've discussed it several times. We spoke about being, monogamous. We spoke about not using disrespectful and foul language. There's no justification for what I've done. I'm responsible for my own actions. That is how a healthy person would respond. Now, a manipulative person will work very hard at convincing you that no, they don't have to take ownership of their behavior. They don't have to take ownership over the way that they're treating you because it is your fault. Again, going back to the original definition, it's about controlling and influencing the way you think, the way you act, the way you feel in a dishonest and a deceitful way. And typically where it is working out in their benefit more than it is working out in your benefit. So I think I've saved the best for last, because this last point, I should call it actually a hidden way of manipulation. Some manipulation is pretty obvious if you have experience with manipulative people, but some of them, even if you have experience, can be quite hidden. And this particular point that I want to make to you is quite hidden. And that is when you answer the question, how do you know when someone is being manipulative, is that they choose when to be inappropriate. They choose when to show that side that is toxic, that is emotionally abusive, that is destructive to your emotional well-being. They pick and choose when to show it. An example of that is something I see in relationships where you hear one partner, and typically I'm speaking to women, so let's say you hear the woman say, oh, he has anger issues, he's been through a lot in the past, or he's having a bad day, or whatever it is. They find a way to say this person has anger issues. However, when that toxic partner is around other people, they don't act the same way. They don't behave the same way, right? Someone who has anger issues or any type of issues or disorder, you're typically not able to pick and choose when to show it, right? If you have, hypertension, your hypertension is not going to show up when it feels like showing up, right? It's going to be there consistently, right? Now, with personality disorders and people who are being manipulative, they are good at masking, right? And that's how you know when someone is being manipulative. So don't give people a pass and say, oh, they have anger issues, they have trauma. Most people have had trauma, right? We still are responsible for our actions and our behavior. And if someone can strategically pick and choose when to show certain sides of themselves, that's how you know they're being manipulative. Again, they are picking and choosing. They are like a puppet. They are controlling and influencing you and the situation in a dishonest and deceitful way, because they are portraying that they have an issue that's causing them to mistreat you. However, when they're around other people, they're choosing to be on their best behavior, to mask it. Some can be actually very charming in front of other people. So that is another example of manipulation. We can go on and on with examples, but I hope the very root of the definition, the very basic definition that I gave, is a good starting point for you. Maybe you can relate to some of these examples that I've given. If you can, feel free to put it in the comments. If you have questions, feel free to put it in the comments or contact me in the links in the description box below. If you find yourself in a place where you figured out that the person is manipulative and you are ready to disconnect, you're ready to detach, or you have already started the process, go ahead and click the link in the description box below for my Broken to Breakthrough coaching program. These are the steps that I use for myself to be able to let go of a toxic relationship, to be able to heal from it, to move on, become a new version of myself. And I know that can sound kind of cliche where we talk about become a new version of yourself, but healing really does create a new version of yourself. And what happens sometimes, people do become a new version of themselves after toxic relationships, but it's an angry version of themselves. It's a bitter version of themselves. And when we are functioning in life from a negative place, we attract more negative. And that's how many people still end up right back in another toxic relationship. So Broken to Breakthrough is going to, yes, help you to be a new version of yourself, but a healthier version of yourself, a more aware version of yourself, and making sure that you don't end up in a situation like that again. And not only that, but you become a version of yourself that you can acquire new healthy relationships. So if that sounds like something you need, go ahead and click the link in the description box below. You also have access there to ask me any questions about the program if you are interested. I hope this episode was helpful for you. If it was, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. If you're not already subscribed, make sure you subscribe so you can be notified for new upcoming episodes, and share it with at least one person, at least one person that you know that is experiencing something like this and can benefit from this information. Until next time.